What are the yamas and niyamas? It could be that you are seeking the divine by following the eight-limbed path and you just don't feel any progress. In the West, we would center on, are you taking the actions every day of asana, pranayama, like are you doing the poses, are you doing breath practice, are you meditating? But in the East, they might ask these additional questions of, are you living the right lifestyle? Are you living by the yamas and niyamas? So let's talk about what those are today. First of all, let's look at the yamas. The yamas are the things to avoid, the actions to avoid. They're like the 7 deadly sins of yoga. There are 5 of the yamas, and I'll put them up in the corner. It's not really important to know the Sanskrit names for them, although it's common to refer to them by them. The first principle of the niyamas, the first action to avoid in order to live a good life, is ahimsa. It's living a life of non-harm. The basis of this idea, however, is not that I don't want to harm other things just because I want to make the world good. It's actually, I want to not harm anything because I want to not harm myself. Most people who climb the eight-limbed path, who have the experience of samadhi, they have this experience of like the union of all life or all existence. And so what it means is if we hurt something else in existence, we're harming part of this like universal creation or this universal consciousness. And if we harm that thing, we're actually harming ourselves. And we're creating a destructive future for ourselves. By planting those seeds of harm in our mind, we've created a more harmful world for our future. So in ahimsa, we really want to live the life of non-harm in order to make a world of non-harm for ourselves. And you'll find that this is common in all of the ways to live a yogic lifestyle. It's that we want to live a quality lifestyle for the selfish reason of creating a quality life for ourselves. However, if all life is in union, then creating a quality life is creating a quality life for everyone. It's making a better existence. The second yama, the second thing to avoid, is satya. And it's avoiding seeing the world the way you see it. It's trying to see the world as it actually exists. This is like the Stoic lifestyle of just being critical of our own responses and our own emotions. We want to see the world as it exists and not as we see it. Because if we see the actual world that exists, we make better choices and we take better actions. And again, it's a selfish thing. We don't want to respond to the world that we feel exists because that response is not holistic. We want to respond to the world as the truth actually represents the world, and that will create a better world for all of us in the future. The third of the yamas, the third thing to avoid, is often stated as non-stealing. And asteya in Sanskrit does mean non-stealing, but it's a much bigger idea than that. It's really recognizing the fact that the Creator created all of this, and you are part of that. Like you were created by that Creator, whoever it is. And so since you were created, you have unique attributes that are important to this world. Anything you steal is trying to take someone else's attributes, and there's no need for that because you should be aiming to be yourself. Now, this does mean the self that is you might be poor. The self that is you might not have all the aspects of comfort in your life that you would like to have, but it is the best life you could have because it's the life the Creator gave you. And recognizing non-stealing or asteya is really recognizing the fact that your uniqueness is important to the world. So you have no need to take something from someone else only to represent who you are. And then the fourth yama, the fourth thing to avoid, aparigraha, in Sanskrit really means like not overeating or not over-consuming. But again, it's a much bigger idea than this. It's really about the fact that we are not alone in this world. We live in community, and those communities are all connected. We're all part of this connected consciousness that is all of creation. And so as a result, we really want to live as part of the community. So we're not just not over-consuming ourselves, we're making sure to share what we have with everyone else. So aparigraha, or not over-consuming, is really about recognizing our connectedness to everyone. And it's the fact that giving away the things we have to the people that need them is supporting ourselves because we didn't need those things. The fifth yama is the most misunderstood. It is brahmacharya. And it's interesting that I often see this translated as celibacy or like being careful about sexual intimacy. And okay, like that is important, sure. I always thought it was interesting that built into the word brahmacharya is Brahman. It is the Indian word for like God, like that the ultimate God, because it's a religion of many gods, but the God above the other gods is the Brahman. And so it's interesting that it's built into this, and then when we translate it, it gets to be something so small as just celibacy. And I would just push back on it and say, I think it's a much bigger idea than this. I heard it described by a teacher that I love as the pursuit of the ultimate knowledge of self. It's understanding that everything we know about ourselves is not who we are. We are much bigger and more powerful than whatever we think we are right now. It's like the quote from Eleanor Roosevelt that I don't remember the exact statement, but it's something like, our greatest fear is realizing our ultimate potential. And so these 5 things to avoid become just a way of quality living. We want to live in a way that we don't harm others, that we see the world as it actually is and not as we see it in our own perception and reactions. We also recognize our own uniqueness, and we don't need to take anything from anyone else because we already have everything that the Creator has already given us. We recognize that we are connected and we're part of a community, and so anything the Creator gives us, we want to share it with others openly and not overconsume for ourselves. And lastly, we never want to think that we fully understand ourselves. We want to know that there's always something more, and we want to seek that divine understanding of who is it that the Creator has made us, not just who we are in this moment. And so these 5 yamas, they're 5 ways of living a good life by avoiding the wrong actions, are half the story. The other half of the story is the niyamas. And in the niyamas, they give us things we want to pursue, things we should do every day. They are practices that we should enact. And the first one is saucha. It is cleanliness. And so it's not just cleanliness in our body. It's the fact that we should think about clean things. We should do clean things. We should have a clean lifestyle. We should just be clean people. And I think most people would recognize that cleanliness is next to godliness. It only makes sense, especially when we don't think of it as just cleanliness in the mundane, but cleanliness in all aspects of our lives is something that we should chase after as a daily practice. The second and third niyamas really go together. They're santosha and tapas. Santosha is like contentment within ourselves, and it is a practice that we should enact every day. It's not that you should be content in yourself, it's that you should practice contentment with who you are. All of us feel discontent at times, but it's a practice to step back and think, okay, what am I actually discontented with? And is this a real perception of life? And does it actually recognize who I actually am as a person, or am I just reacting to my emotions? Santosha is that practice of stepping into the contentment of just knowing that you are enough because you were created to be enough. And that's coupled with the idea of tapas, the third of the niyamas. And tapas is like this cleansing fire within that we want to burn away impurities. Not only do we want to be content within ourselves, we want to be constantly seeking better actions and better thoughts and making ourselves better. It's not a discontentment, but it is a dissatisfaction with the fact that we're not there yet, with the fact that God is perfecting us, but we need to have our peace in this and practice that perfection every day. And these two practices together really always lead together to show me what the fourth of the niyamas is, which is svadhyaya, and it means self-study. It's kind of like they have this emotional charge. Contentment feels very passive to me. And tapas, like that burning fire of improvement, it feels very active to me. But svadhyaya is much more neutral. It's like this self-study of we're constantly just trying to find out who is this person that is me and how can I be a more holistic person? How can I live better within God's plan? And that self-study is a daily practice that we should enact all the time. And then the fifth of the niyamas is ishvara pradhyana. It is surrender to the divine. In Stoic philosophy, this is amor fati. In Christian philosophy, it is God's plan. It's the idea that we don't actually have any effect on the world outside. Now, you may think you do, but not compared to all the other people in the world, not compared to God, not compared to physics. Like, we really have very little agency in the outside world. And so we should simply accept what is. We should surrender to God's plan. We should love whatever it is that occurs in our life, even if we don't like it. And so these 5 yamas and 5 niyamas provide a framework that we can live a good life. And it would be common in the East if you're practicing this 8-limbed path and just finding it difficult to, like your path is blocked, there's obstructions. maybe you need to go back and consider, how is it you're living your life? How are you doing on these daily practices of things we can avoid and of things that we should be enacting and trying to make habitual in order to be better every day? And if you do these things, then you should be able to move up on that 8-limbed path and achieve enlightenment eventually. If this is interesting to you, I'd really appreciate it if you'd hit that like button. And if you'd like to do a meditation practice, I got one coming up for you. This is the Stoic Yogi, out.